So, I have some friends visiting me from California, coming to Boston. I don't know whether they've ever been to Boston before, but they're spending a week, and I'm going to try to help them see what they think they want to see and help them go decide how to divide their week-long trip. Uh, I did this once upon a time when my brothers and my nephew and I went to Paris, and my nephew and younger brother came to Boston a day early, and I brought out a big map of Paris and explained what we were going to do. And uh, my brother, bless his soul, bless his heart, said, he called me Sheldon from the nerd on the Big Bang Theory because I was thinking too much. But there were certain things that I thought they wanted to see, Eiffel Tower, for example, and the Louvre, for example, and all the fancy museums and churches. But what I wanted to do was divide the city up into groups, days that we were going to be there, and have it be temporally organized. My nephew at the time was in high school and he was studying history and art history. So I thought day one, we would spend it sort of going to 3 or 4 places that we could easily walk to from where our bed and breakfast was, our apartment or hotel, whatever it was called, apartment, B&B. And so here's Paris, here's one bank, here's the other bank, here's the Ile de la Cité, here's Notre Dame, here's the Louvre, here's the Eiffel Tower. And our hotel was about 2 blocks from the river and right next to Pont Neuf. And then right over here was the Museum of the Middle Ages, whatever that was called. So I thought we'd spend day one here, only there. And then we'd spend day two, we'd go maybe there, the Louvre with the kings, then we'd go later on we go to Les Invalides where Napoleon is buried, and maybe we'd talk about that era. And then the last day we'd be here, and then we'd also go to some other places as well. But we'd be only here one day, and only here another day, and only here another day. Well, this is what we actually did. We went here, 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 here on one day, and then we spent so much time on the subway or walking from one place to another to see things in all sorts of weird orders. So I'm going to try to suggest to my friends visiting Boston that we do a more logical plan. So they already have some things figured out. They're going to visit me one day, and then we're going to go to trivia that night where I do drawings on my iPad that are projected on the big screen, and I think they'd get a kick out of seeing how that works. We also have some pen business to conduct. I also want to show people what's happening in my building, and so that's part of one day. But there's all the other days of the week that they are also going to be visiting Boston. So I will meet them on Monday. They're arriving Saturday night. They'll have Sunday all by themselves. And on Monday morning, I will meet them at the Gardner Museum, and then I will give them this book so they don't have to buy one of their own. And so I just was thinking, well, what can they do on Sunday by themselves? And what's nice about Boston is it's a very walkable city, and their hotel is not in the middle of the city. It's a little bit to the edge. Here's Boston, the wharves, South Boston, the airport, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Harvard Square is here. The Museum of Fine Arts is here. The Gardner Museum is here. You know, these two things could be easily done in one day. They're right next to each other, but your brain sort of stops being able to appreciate art if you have too much of it. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing that together. So anyway, they're starting here, and I thought what they could do is just walk along the ocean. Here's the ocean, and they could go to the Boston Aquarium if they want to look at fish. They could buy a ticket and go in and look at the fish, or they could walk across the street, and there's Faneuil Hall Marketplace and Quincy Market. They're historic buildings that are now used for restaurants and sort of fast food, because this is very touristy, this area. I wouldn't necessarily go there to eat, but if you wanted to buy a shirt that said Boston on it, that's where you'd buy it. I don't think these people want to necessarily do that, but they might like to see the buildings. Also right here, next across another street, is the old State House building, and they also can get on a little ferry boat here, and it'll take them to the Boston Navy Yard where the USS Constitution is. Old Ironsides is here. And what's neat about this ferry, at least I haven't been on it in years, I don't think it's changed, but it runs on the hour, every hour. So you would get on here, you'd go there, you'd get off, spend an hour or two here if you want, then get back on a different ferry, or it might be the same one, but a different trip, and it'll bring you back here. There's also other cruises that are bigger, longer, and you can even maybe go on a whale watch cruise or something. But all of this is within maybe a 15-minute walk from their hotel. Their hotel also is on the water, and they might also have boats leaving from here that can go there or go elsewhere. So day one by themselves, they're going to have a lot of stuff they can do if they want to. And what I can do is I can email them a list of places that they can walk past, and if they want to go in, they can go in. Also right there, or I think it's right here, right there, there's the Holocaust Museum Memorial, and it's a glass towers, maybe 20 of them in a row that have the names of, I don't know if it's all every person that was exterminated in the Holocaust, or if it's, I don't remember I don't know, maybe it's a powerful place. I just can't remember the details of whether it has every name or not. But right next to that thing is this thing, which is the oldest oldest continuing restaurant in the country. The Union Oyster House is here. Now, again, that's rather touristy, but it is, I think the oysters are a little bit fresher than 300 years old, but it's nice to be able to say, you know, I did go to the oldest restaurant in the country, and it's right there. So just this alone, and whether you go into the aquarium or whether you take this or that, this alone is a day without running. And there's enough that one can do here. Harvard Square over here has some really great museums, the Fogg Art Museum, Fine Art Museum, and then they also have the Peabody, the Anthropology and Natural History Museum collection, as well as the glass flowers. The glass flowers is a famous collection of blown glass flowers that were created by two German, I think German or Polish or Czechoslovakian, I can't remember now, artists, glass blowers, who created these things initially for teaching purposes. So you walk into this room and you swear you're in a greenhouse, and these are real plants, but they're made of glass. And it was a way of having something that was so detailed and so real that you could actually learn from seeing these sculptures. And they also have lots of dinosaurs and birds and snakes and all sorts of things that are stuffed. They have rocks and minerals. On the other part of that museum, they have anthropological stuff. So it's mainly, I haven't been in there for a long time either, but it's mainly artifacts that maybe should belong in an art museum. I mean, a traditional art museum, but for some reason they're in this museum of anthropology. So there's a lot of Native American stuff, Central American, Mesoamerican. I don't know what they have in the way of Asian art, but I think this is mainly the Americas represented there. Early American, the indigenous people. I mean, not the Irish or the Germans that came over, but the earlier ones. So it's historic and fun. So they could spend a day doing that, just that. And outside of that is also Mount Auburn Cemetery, another thing where you can spend a couple of hours just wandering around, looking at tombstones. Now, the tombstones themselves are not necessarily as interesting as the location. It's a very hilly area, lots of trees that are, it's essentially an arboretum with a bunch of dead people in it. A lot of bird watchers go there to watch birds. A lot of tree loving people go there to hug trees. And you can see that along with these really neat memorials, tombstones. So that's further that way. It's not really walkable. You'd have to get a lift or something. Downtown Boston, this area could easily be a day, or it could be later on after we see the Gardner Museum. We could go here and see the Boston Public Library and maybe Trinity Church. and they're right in the center of town. Then there's the Boston Common and the Public Garden, and then you've got the State House as well, and that's all in one area. Over here is the Ether Dome, Mass General Hospital, the thing that you have the patient here going to get his leg cut off, and all of the students are looking down as the doctors operate. So it's this amphitheater kind of a thing, looking down, and so that's not used anymore, but the room exists, and there's also a history of medical stuff in this building as well. So that could be another couple of hours spent just there. Some of these things are open every day. Some of them aren't. So that will have to be tweaked. But again, usually what I try to do, just so you don't have to, go everywhere each day, is, pick a spot. You see these 4 things, plus this looks like a good restaurant, that's a good restaurant, and there's enough stuff in each of these areas that you could easily find you filling a day with really interesting stuff. MIT has a museum as well. My brothers and I love boat models, and they had a great collection of boat models. They have it on display in one of the hallways of the school. There's also a lot of beautiful boat models at the Museum of Fine Arts. I don't know whether my visitors like boat models or not, but if they do, there you go. What does I've been to Cambridge Hospital back when it was very large. Cambridge Hospital. Well, Cambridge Hospital is over here, and hopefully we don't have to go there unless someone breaks their leg and we're over in this part of the room. We'll go there, but I don't think, I don't know what they have in the way of any sort of display. Mass General does have this display of medical history of some sort. I really don't know what they have in their collection. The closest thing I've been to that is the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia, and it was a museum of sort of creepy things. They've got the Siamese fetus with 2 heads in one jar, and they have that's a month old, and then they have another one that's maybe 3 months old in another jar, and it's creepy. They've got a room full of different kinds of skulls showing different medical conditions, lots of skeletons. It's kind of creepy, and but that's in Philadelphia. That's not in Boston. So I don't know what this one has. So again, I think what I'll do is I'll suggest to them in an email of things that they can do just within walking distance of their hotel. They are going to go, they have tickets to see the ICA, which is a modern art museum, Institute of Contemporary Art. And it is in an area that was just in the last decade or so built up. So they're really big, tall glass buildings and hotels and convention centers and stuff. It's not that quaint. So if I were them, I would go to this, and then as soon as you can, get the heck out of there, come back over here somewhere. And but they might like modern contemporary architecture. I don't know that. They're from California, and they're keen on Art Deco stuff, and we don't really have a lot of Art Deco in the city. There might be a building or two every few blocks that was built at that time. There might be a movie theater or theater or something of that era that exists. I don't really know that much. The Boston Public Library and Trinity Church are right across the street from one another, both magnificent buildings that house magnificent. In the case of the library, it has beautiful rooms, ceiling and frescoes by, not frescoes, but murals by John Singer Sargent. And Trinity Church was made, designed by H.H. Richardson, and it's an amazing building. And I haven't been inside in a long time, but maybe I'll go in with them if they want to see that. There's other churches, Old North Church, where Paul Revere had his lanterns. There's South Church. There's lots of those kinds of things. There's lots of Paul Revere's house, various other houses that famous people lived in. Some are open, some just have a plaque on the wall. There's the North End is here. It used to be a little bit more removed from Boston when they had the big elevated highway, which has now been buried, the Big Dig. It fixed that. But North End had been a rather removed neighborhood, mainly Italian, and lots of Italian restaurants are there. A lot of low 3 or 4 story tall buildings. It actually probably looks the most like what Boston looked like 200 years ago. Low and residential. There's a lovely walking tour, ComAv, that has beautiful houses on either side. This area is called Back Bay. This was all filled in the late 1800s. So here the roads are all right angles. Here they're just a mismatch. It's just wherever the cows went is how the roads work here. So it's a nightmare if you're driving. And it's kind of a nightmare when you're walking too, because you think you're going this way, but you end up you're going that way, and you're wondering, why haven't I come across what I thought I was going to run into? And it's because the road turned and you weren't paying attention, I guess, or something. But anyway, I think what I'll do for them is to set up a plan for this. And then when I meet them at the museum, after we're done with our visiting the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, we can maybe sit down and have coffee or lunch or dinner or something and plan how their other days might work. And again, my plan is to figure out a way where they can maybe do 2 or 3 things on their list on one day, and then 2 or 3 things on their list another day, so they don't have to bounce around too much. There are areas like my house that are not near anything, but they have to come here. So So that's part of what they have to do. And they're going to like it, goddammit. No, they will like it. They'll get a kick out of my place. And if I find, I don't know right now whether they are keen on early American history, but if they want to take the Freedom Trail, walk on that, that could be something they do part of a day. And it's a little red line is part of the sidewalks, and you just follow that. And if you have a guidebook like this, or their phone would have it, there'll be, every block or two, there's going to be some statue of something that will talk about the history of Boston and the United States in that era. Even, if there was something that happened in recent history that was important, it'll have that too. If it's on, that street, within a block of that path you're on. If they are keen on architecture, those sorts of things are going to be all over the place. They're not going to be in one small clump. So that might be something they might break up in all of the days they're here. Oh, let's make sure we don't miss seeing this building. The State House, the Boston Capitol building, which is right here, is quite amazing. I've been to it twice in my life. Once when I first got here, and another time about 3 months ago, and it's just amazing. Just from an architectural point of view, but if you want to read lots of plaques and see paintings of U.S. history and things like that, that's where you'd go to see that. Almost everywhere in Boston is touristy. There's going to be lots of people that are going to be taking pictures and buying t-shirts, and you can find them anywhere. There's, right here is where a lot of people go to see the bar that was inspired Cheers. The TV show Cheers is right there. It's not something I'd want to see. I mean, I've driven by it, and I think I went in it once, but it's nothing I need to see up close. Anyway, it'll be fun. I don't think they plan on renting a car or renting a car. I don't think I would advise it. But anything we can easily go to by Lyft or by subway or by walking is fine. If they do want to go outside of the town, north of here is the Peabody Essex Museum that is quite lovely. It's in Salem, Massachusetts, where the witch trials were, and is famous for that. They can do that as a day trip if they wanted, or half a day. They might choose to go west to Lincoln and Concord and see that historical bit of stuff. Again, I don't quite know what they're generally interested in right now, but I will find out when they come. And I can do, I think, a good job of trying to fill each of these areas with suggestions of what to see so they can spend a good 5 or 6 hours in each area. Or all day long. When I went to Paris with my brothers, our plan was to get up in the morning, leave, do all sorts of stuff, and come back and go to bed and rinse and repeat. We ended up going back to our hotel room quite a lot. We actually ate a lot there, so we would go buy groceries at the nearby store and cook and eat there. So there was a little bit more time spent there than I would have thought, but it was fine. What I didn't like about it, it was like 5 stories off the ground on a little tiny spiral staircase that I could barely get my body in, let alone walk up and turn. So it was a little bit tiring, but it got less tiring as I kept doing it. I built some muscles, I guess. So anyway, that's the plan. Let's see, what does Ms. Marilyn say here? Well, that's true. They might want to do nothing, and they might want to go out for a romantic dinner for 2, in which case I'm not going to be part of that, obviously. They're welcome to invite me to hang out with them every day if they want. I might be able to do it. At the moment, I can. I may end up getting a job the day after tomorrow and have to be in my studio working on it. I'm doing something right now for Mass General Hospital for that client right there. So hopefully I'll have that done by the time they come. And again, they may want to do nothing. So it's up to them. I know how to do nothing. I don't have to, I can give them all sorts of advice about how to sit on one's ass and do absolutely nothing all day long. That's what I do these days, almost all the time. So, but anyway. So, Cesar and Mary, I'm planning it for you. You don't have to take my advice at all, but we'll see how it works for you. I don't think I'm saying anything that's particularly profound, or something that you couldn't discover all by yourself by looking at a guidebook like this, but there are some things that are not in guidebooks. There was a restaurant in Paris that I thought might be interesting to go to, and it's not in any guidebook. It was in some, I just typed in on the internet weird things to see in Paris, and there was one restaurant where you go in and they eventually will take you by the hand and bring you into where you sit down, and you sit down and they will get yourself acquainted with your table and your silverware and where your glass is, but it's completely black. It's dark. You can't see one thing. The food, everything is, you have the experience entirely in a black room, or a room that has no lights. And that would creep me out a lot, but it was something that I thought was kind of interesting. There was another thing I wanted to surprise them by as we're walking down the street, and I'd say, "Oh, look at that!" And it was a storefront it was for a pest removal company, and somehow this was in a on a website about things to see in Paris, and it was the window of this on the street was completely full of dead rats hung by their tails, and I thought, well, that's something you don't see in Bloomington, Minnesota, but I thought that would be sort of a fun thing to accidentally come across. And there are places like that in Boston, not with dead rats, but with interesting historical things. There's also another fun museum. I haven't been to it in years. It's the Museum of Bad Art, and it's a collection of art that people sincerely meant to do well, but they're not very talented, or they might know how to push paint around, but just they didn't have a sense of how funny looking this thing was going to be when it was done. So let me just see if I can find an image of that. It's right now the museum is in a lobby, or the basement lobby of a movie theater. So I don't know if it's open every day. Museum of Bad Art. MOBA, Museum of Bad Art. So here's one of the portraits in the Museum of Bad Art images. What's really funny about this, here's a picture of a dog in the Museum of Bad Art. What's really neat about this museum is the are the captions they come up with, or titles that they imagine for these pictures. That is kind of fun. Like, I don't know exactly what this is supposed to be. Here's a spoof on the painting of Marat by David. So anyway, let's just see. Bathrooms and the exits. Yeah, I think, for the MFA, for example, the Fog Museum is small enough that you can see every room easily. And each room might have 30 pictures or sculptures in it. But the MFA, the rooms are huge. They're full of hundreds of paintings, and there's lots and lots and lots of rooms. So for that museum, I would say, what is the time frame you're looking to? What kind of pictures do you like? And start there. And if you have time left over, you can spend an hour looking at Egyptian stuff. You can't see everything there. The Gardner, essentially, you go through every room, and it's completely packed with art. There's no blank space anywhere. The walls have brocade wallpaper on them, or murals on them. It's just full. So that'll fill you up to the brim. Anyway, But anyway, I'm gonna head off and do some more work. So talk to you all later. Bye.